Hi guys, my name is Barry and welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be talking about Underworld Awakening. This is the one where Kate Beckinsale returns as Selene. The previous film was Rise of the Lycans, and that had a prequel, so it had no Selene in it. It was mostly focused on Lucian, Michael Sheen's character, and I did say in that review that I thought maybe Kate Beckinsale was finished with the Underworld franchise, and she probably was at the time, and that's why they had to think about it and go back as a prequel. Whereas in this one, it's 6 years since Kate Beckinsale has played Selene, and I think, talking about her first of all, she just slid right back into the role. She didn't look like she aged at all either. She still looks as young as she did in the 2003 movie, never mind the 2006 sequel, Evolution. So Kate Beckinsale just fell back into that role as if she never left. As for Scott Speedman's character, Michael, he also made a return in a way, and I think the same situation with this one was the same with Rise of the Lycans, in that they probably asked him, do you want to return as Michael? And he either thought, I don't want to return as Michael because I'm finished with the franchise, or I want too much money, and they just didn't want to offer him that money. And I'm kind of glad either way happened, because I've said before, I don't really like Michael as a character. I think his character arc came and went in the first film, and anything that he'd done or appeared in after that was just wasted. So I'm glad that Michael didn't really make a return. You can see some dodgy CGI work, some camera trickery to show that it was Michael, but it wasn't actually Scott Speedman. So I'm glad that that's the extent that we got with Michael. Yes, at the end of the film, it looks like Michael's still alive, but at this point I thought, nah, he ain't returning. This one's set in 2015. It's set 12 years after the events of the first two movies, and we see at the start that Selene is captured and she's frozen for these 12 years, and when she wakes up, somebody's let her out. She thinks it's Michael that's let her out, but we found out later on that it's not actually Michael. It's her 11/12-year-old daughter that's let her out, and they can see through each other's eyes when they're close to each other. So I think that added aspect of the franchise was pretty good, because I think we got a little bit stale with the fight between the lycans and the vampires. So I think adding something like that was worthwhile, especially that Kate Beckinsale was getting a little bit older herself, and maybe they wanted to introduce a daughter so that maybe and potentially in the future, maybe it does happen, maybe it doesn't, that maybe her daughter could be the one that leads the uprising against, in this one, the humans. Yes, the humans in this one. Lycans and vampires are still against each other, but also the humans know about them now. So the humans are trying to exterminate the lycans and the vampires, but we also find out that the humans that are organising this aren't actually humans, they're lycans. So in effect, it's still lycans versus vampires. And these lycans are doing experiments, which is why they want to keep Selene and her daughter, so they can take their blood and do some experiments on them to make their lycans stronger. Now, the main guy, he's got his son, and he's experimenting on his son. His son is basically patient zero, patient number one. And this guy who looks like Coldplay, my hands up shaking just to let you know now, turns out to be this uber lycan, this massive, maybe 12 to 15 foot lycan. And I did like that as well, to be honest. The CGI, again, was quite dodgy, but I love the fact that we got this even bigger, stronger lycan that Selene had to fight against. If we look at Selene's daughter, she's a bit of a hybrid as well because of Michael. So we know that she is the daughter of Michael. So she's a hybrid, so she looks more vampire than anything, but when she becomes this hybrid state, she looks a little bit like Michael as well. So she's not really a lycan, she's more vampire slash hybrid, which is a lycan slash vampire. So she's probably 75% vampire, 25% lycan, if that's possible. As most of the vampires and lycans died in the first three movies, there's not that many characters left apart from Michael and Selene. So the new characters that they introduced took me a little bit to get used to, because I loved the previous characters like Marcus and Victor, etc. But with the introduction to David, I liked him because he was one of those brave vampires in the modern world, and there was nothing bad about him. He wasn't too cheesy, he wasn't a bad guy, he wasn't really a good guy either. He just wanted to do good for his vampire community, and his dad was a little bit reluctant to help out, because he didn't want the only people that they have left in hiding to either get caught by the humans or the lycans. This was another short film, just like the previous installment, and I do like the fact that they're just getting through these movies very quickly, and the film was very fast paced. The action sequences were a lot better, the choreography was a lot better. I think they were the best they've ever been in the entire franchise up until this point, but it was a short film, and with Rise of the Lycans, I think it was short and sweet and it got to the point, whereas this one, I felt like it had another 15 minutes missing. The end fight between Selene and the main lycan, the Coldplay guy, his dad and Selene's daughter, that was a great fight, and I felt like it was going to go somewhere after that, but after that fight ended, it was the end of the movie. But I felt like, I don't know if you get this yourself guys, but when you're watching a big boss fight and it gets done, you're like, okay, maybe there's going to be talking after it and then the big finale, but we don't get that. We get the fight and then that's the end of the movie. So I think it ended suddenly. I think I was still satisfied at the end of the movie. I just felt like maybe there was something else that they could have given us. After the big boss fight, we obviously find out, like I said, that Michael could still be alive because earlier in the movie, Selene defrosted his contamination chamber, and when she came back, he was gone. So Michael is officially, in this film, at this moment in time, still alive, and he could return for the next Underworld movie if Scott Speedman either wants to come back for it or he gets the money that he asks for. I did look up online to see why Scott Speedman didn't reprise his role, and it was the same with Kate Beckinsale for the third one. There's not really a clear answer. All we can do is speculate as to why they didn't return, and I think it is, just like Kate Beckinsale, either thought he was too good for the franchise or he didn't feel like returning to it was the right moment in time, or he asked for the money and they said, no, you're not getting that money, so he decided, CGI me in, I'm just not returning. When I look at the IMDb scores for all the Underworld movies, we will talk about the fifth one soon, but when I look at the scores for all the first four movies up until this point, they've all been pretty good scores. Even the fourth one has got a generous score. I'm not saying it's too high, I'm just surprised as to how great this one was received, and it was the first movie in the franchise as well that got a 3D release. I remember going to see it in 3D, and I think I enjoyed it more in 3D at the cinema than I did on my rewatch. I'm not saying I didn't like it, I think it's still a good entry into the franchise, especially after a fourth movie and a reboot of the story, because obviously Selene returned. I was just surprised that more people enjoyed it than I expected them to do. But what do you think, guys? Did you enjoy the fourth movie in the franchise? What do you think of it? Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you soon.
Meeting adjourned.
I'll be right back.
What are you waiting for, huh?
Coming to get you, Barbara.
Ever played Skin the Cat?
Someone's in the back! See!